What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of Culture 316. I am your host, Jordan Nahisi.
And the co-host, Edge's Throat Go Mo. What is up, people?
We're glad that you guys can join us again. Once again, if you're on YouTube, give us a like, a share, a subscribe. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to rate the show 5 stars. And for those of you who are tapping in and want to be a part of a community with us, we now have a Discord, and the link of that will be somewhere in the description, but we would love to chat with you guys. Also, something that we forgot to mention last week, for those of you who joined us for our Extreme Rules group chat, watch along. Thank you. That was dope. We're gonna do that again. And let
Super
us know if
fun, super
that
funny.
was so much fun. So like I had a couple drinks. I know Mo was feeling it. She was in her
Oh,
bag.
I was wilding.
So she was
And I
wilding. So
I had everyone smoking and drinking. We were having such a good time. We had like a really good time with the live reactions. We had even like an open discussion afterward. So I mean,
absolutely.
if any of you guys want to join after, I mean, I had a really good time engaging and getting to know some of you guys because I see you guys
Hmm.
supporting us through like Instagram or on Twitter and stuff like that. It's nice to just hear your guys' full take and your actual reaction in real time. I thought that
Absolutely.
was really fun and hearing everyone's takes and having a little back and forth with each other, a little tussle. That was pretty fun.
Yeah,
Honestly, we should totally do that, or we are going to, I should say, do that for every single
absolutely.
pay per view.
I'm down. And I think the next one is Survivor Series War Games. And we're going to talk a little bit more about WWE Premium Live events later in the show. But yeah, join us for War Games. It's going to be lit. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to connecting and having community with you guys as well. Just a quick couple things as well. Prayers up for Triple H this past week. He was unable to attend Raw because he tested positive for COVID. So we wanted to send all of our love to the COO, Paul Levesque, better known as Triple H. We love you, dog. We hope that you get better soon. Take as much rest as you need because COVID ain't no joke. Also, prayers up for our guy, Hangman Adam Page. Unfortunately, he had a nasty, nasty spill on the past episode of Dynamite, to no fault of anyone's. And I want to put an emphasis on that. But we just wanted to send our best love in regards to him as well. Now, let's get this show on the road. And I think that we are going to get started with some All Elite Wrestling. This past week, Variety has reported that the current reigning Ring of Honor World Champion Chris Jericho has signed a contract extension with All Elite Wrestling and will remain with the company through December 2025. The new contract entails that he will be a creative advisor and a producer in addition to being a talent. In response to signing his contract, Chris Jericho said that, the same, essentially, he said that the simple answer was why not? Things have been going so well in the company, and I really do feel that this is my company. That's very interesting. It's tattooed on my heart, so to speak. I've been here since day one, and there's really no reason to be here no reason not to be here continuing forward. Very interesting comments. Wanted to know what your reaction is to him signing his contract extension, and what does this mean for All Elite Wrestling moving forward?
Honestly, I don't disagree with anything that he said. You know, I always put Chris Jericho over in terms of him being a talent and all that he has given to wrestling, especially with this company. I don't believe that this company could have had taken off the way that it has, and that even the world title wouldn't even have the prestige that it has if it had not been for Chris Jericho
Right.
you know? And I feel like he's already been doing enough on TV. I know there's been a lot of complaints about him being involved in everyone's storyline and there's too much of him on TV. I feel like if he could just step back and he could actually help other people or help book some storylines or maybe strengthen some of the talent's weak points, that would be great and that would be helpful. And I feel like he's like the best person for that. Again, like I say before, he's a very seasoned veteran. He has a lot of experience and he's very well rounded.
Mm.
Um, he's good at being a leader. Obviously, he's super charismatic. He's one of the best on the mic. He still could keep at it in the ring and stuff like that. So I feel like AEW could benefit from that because they are struggling here and there creatively. Like I feel like in some aspects there's some white hot storylines where you kind of really don't need to do too much. The talent, like people like MJF, for example, William Regal, we're gonna get into that later, guys. Like they just know what to do and they'll just take the show away. They
Mm,
popped off. They popped off. But yeah,
they did.
they just know what to do. But I feel like with some talents that could kind of like maybe use some guidance or a rub, they could benefit from someone like Chris Jericho because I do feel like Tony Khan has been taking on too many roles at once. And I don't think that the people he has at the moment doing their jobs are bad at their jobs, but it's just like I feel like it's helpful when you take someone who's been on the inside of the business and have them, work behind the scenes because just like they know exactly what it's like to be on screen and how to perform and execute all these things. I feel like his take and whatever information he has to provide or his opinions would be valuable to the company, in terms of moving them forward. So it's good for him. It's good for his ever, extending resume that he has going on.
Hmm.
So good for
Yeah.
him. But I think it would benefit the company. So what do you think?
I 100% agree with you. First off, on it's just so funny that I was reading an article in Variety about how the Ring of Honor World Champion is signing a contract extension where he will be a creative advisor and a producer in addition to being a talent, and then that guy being Chris Jericho. Like if you told me that this was going to happen 5 years ago, I would have been like, "You're wilding." But this guy, it's like this man has he's done everything. Like the Ring of Honor World Champion, first ever AEW World Champion, WWE Champion, World Heavyweight Champion, WCW like this guy, he's an 8-time World Champion, and I think that alone is just very impressive. Now, if we're talking about his contract extension and what this means and like my reactions to it, I think that number one, it was a great signing. I think that it's no coincidence that after John Moxley got his extension in his bag, that Chris got his extension in his bag, rightfully deserved. And it's interesting how, we talked about John Moxley or Chris Jericho possibly being EVPs. But if you notice the different titles, they're not being considered EVPs anymore. And they're essentially kind of taking on similar roles as what the Elite were agreed to take on when they were kind of active prior to their suspension. And I also think that it's not a coincidence that all of this is happening when the Elite are not active in the company. I think that when they come back, and when I mean they, I mean Kenny Omega, I mean the Young Bucks, they're gonna come back to a hierarchy and a pecking order in which Tony is like, listen, while you were gone, I cleaned up shop. This is the hierarchy, this is the pecking order. We're not doing EVPs anymore. If you want to be a mentor and a coach, you can be alongside these guys, but dog, all that rah rah, this is your company. No. This is my company. And if it's not my company, it's Chris's company or John's company because they held it down when y'all were tweaking. But I think that this is just a really, really smart signing. Once again, like we said earlier, Chris Jericho is a seasoned veteran. He's one of those guys that adds value in any place that he goes to as a talent, as an executive. Um, and I just think that this is something that's necessary for the evolution of all elite wrestling, especially as they go forward, as they pitch more shows. We've heard reports and rumors about how Warner Brothers is very, very big on AEW. And considering this conflict that popped off, if I'm a Warner Brothers executive and I'm seeing Tony respond to this conflict in this way, I would be very, very excited and be more interested in giving them more money and more opportunities for programming. So I think that this is just a great signing. I think this is a great signing. I think that AEW gains a legit creative force officially because he's been a creative force for himself and for the people around him for a long time. Um, yeah, like for himself and for the people around for a long time. I'm sorry, like my brain just skipped a beat. But I think that this is great for him. I think this is great for the company, and I don't think that they can go anywhere but up from here. You know what I mean? I was gonna say, did you have anything else? Any last thoughts? Because it looks like you have something that you want to say.
It's just that the more I think about it is that wow, like Chris Jericho's career when he retires, whenever that's going to be, like when you put it up against what people in general consider are like the greatest of all time, like The Rock and Stone Cold and stuff like that, it's gonna sound like a controversial take, but it almost is as if his career is kind of a little more legendary if you think about it, with the amount of roles he's
Ooh.
taken within wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like dipping in and out, reinventing himself. taking parts of what he does outside and bringing it back in, to again invent his characters, um, creating all these factions, creating new stars. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's as if like everything he's been touching has turned to gold. I know a lot of people feel like he's shoved down our throats, and I know he says some dumb behind things politically and on social media. But if you put all that aside, like his career is really impressive and legendary. Like as a kid, I would never have thought that this man was going to be in this position and be this important to wrestling.
Absolutely.
Like, it is astronomical, you know? Like, no one ever, like I don't know, again, it's a controversial take, but I just think that, like, if you put him up against, like, people who we consider all-time great legends, you had to put Chris Jericho up there. He may surpass some of your other faves just because of
That's a fact.
everything that he collectively has in his resume. Like,
Hmm.
it's really just wow. Like, no one ever saw this coming. No one
That's a
ever saw
fact.
this coming. But I'm
And
actually
he's.
happy for him, I must say.
I
What
agree
do
with
you
you. I'm
think?
happy.
Like, if you were to okay, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say
Sorry.
I'm happy for him as well, and it's the wild part about it that he's still going. He's still going because he's elevating the
Yeah.
Ring of Honor world title. He's defending it pretty much every week against former Ring of Honor world champions, which is only going to pay dividends if Ring of Honor has programming, which we'll get later into the show. But I agree with you. I think that as far as wrestling is concerned, when we look at The Rock and we look at Stone Cold, like they had 5 to 6 year windows and they made those 5 to 6 years more legendary than some 10, 15, 20 year careers. But when we look at Chris Jericho and his impact, we're looking at a guy who has made a difference on every part of the card. We're looking at a guy who has made a difference over multiple decades in multiple companies. And kind of it's interesting because like I look at Jericho and Hunter kind of in the same light as far as their ability to have impressive in-ring careers, memorable moments, and then transition into executive roles successfully and add value to the business in that way. So I think it's very, very, very interesting. But
Imagine having
going
the
on
same conversation a couple years. Sorry, go on,
right,
go on, my bad.
right. You good. But moving on, speaking of Chris Jericho, it has been reported that a former Inner Circle member Santana and Eddie Kingston had gotten into a confrontation backstage. At the same time, this report has come out. One of the biggest, two of the biggest kind of like incidents that have been happening in AEW. One is this Athena incident where Athena and a woman worked a very, very physical, stiff match on AEW Dark. Kind of led to a lot of speculation and a lot of public critique. And then right after that, Hangman Adam Page suffered an apparent injury during the main event of Dynamite against John Moxley. And there have been a lot of conversations kind of circulating around the internet wrestling community pertaining to these incidents and what it means for AEW. So, with all of these things considered, do you think that AEW is an unsafe work environment? And we could break it down incident by incident, but I just wanted to know your take on everything that's been happening and, yeah.
Honestly, in terms of those two matches that you just mentioned, I don't think that the workers that you just mentioned are, unhinged and reckless. I don't think so. And I did later find out that between the women's match that was all planned, that they wanted to be stiff, that apparently that's how I think her name is Jody, I believe. That's how
Yeah.
she likes to sell her moves and take her bumps or whatnot, and that Athena, from what people were saying that were, watching live, the camera gives you a totally different view than when you're in person. They were saying that, like, the punches that look so aggressive weren't even landing in person when they were watching, but on camera, it looked like to people that, "Oh my gosh, Athena's just beating the crap out of this girl. Like, what did she
Mm-hmm.
do? Is she mad? Is this a shoot fight or whatnot?" And then people are ragging on her. And then, of course, with the Adam situation, with him suffering a concussion because the lariat, in my head, when I'm watching that, I'm just like, I'm thinking about, all right, is Hangman okay? But of course, the internet being the internet decides that they want to make this a war. Every time there's an injury that happens or a botch that happens, the internet's first instinct after asking, "Is this was this a botch or not?" is to just point a finger at who's wrong and who did this, and then to say, "Oh my gosh, this person's a terrible worker. You know, they're so rough with people. They're so uncoordinated. They could have took away this person's life." Now I get it. I get it. We are fans and we feel an emotional connection to all these people, all these talents, because they have an impact on us in our lives. So I get that
Absolutely.
we care for them and we're looking for, their best interests, but to go out of your way, as someone who's never laced up a pair of boots before or been in a ring, and to just point fingers and say, "Wow, that person is a terrible person. They suck at wrestling." Well, I mean, you could say someone sucks at wrestling. That's an
Yeah.
opinion. But to say this person is super reckless off of one botch, as if you guys haven't made a mistake before, and that these people
In
aren't
life.
humans, and that they don't read social media and see these type of comments and how it could negatively impact their mental health. I don't know. I strongly disagree with that, and that actually pissed me off.
Mm.
It actually pissed me off because John Moxley has been through a lot. I think he's overall a pretty safe worker. I would say Hangman is too. And the thing about wrestling is that it's a timing thing. It's a timing thing,
Mhm.
and I have to trust the human with my life. They have to trust themselves with my life. Like that's just how it goes.
Mhm.
And again, these people are stuntmans, they are athletes, they are actors, they have to remember spots and sequences. There's so much going on and so many moving parts. The fact that, like, if you look at it, that botches like this don't happen too often with all the matches and all the stuff that happens. It's just, I feel as though you guys are kind of acting or kind of being a little harsh on these two. I kind of lost Jordan over here. Jordan, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. You can still hear me?
Okay, now you just disappeared on my screen.
You're good.
But no, going back to what I was just saying, do I believe that sometimes they are reckless? Sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, the mid cards could be reckless, mainly because they do too many spot fests for my liking. But for a match like that, that went as long as it freaking did, all right, I'm pretty sure these two grown men were exhausted, you know, and a lariat's very hard to execute. If you really think about it, running up to someone and having to flip yourself and then having someone come at you full force, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Mm.
And this could have just been a timing issue, and that's all it really was. It was just a timing issue, and I feel like we should just been more focused on the fact that Hangman Adam Page is okay, instead of slandering and berating John Moxley. Because just like, can you imagine you're scared that you might have injured your partner or ended their career,
Mm.
and you go back to you go backstage and you're just waiting on some type of sign that this man's okay, and then you open up the internet and the internet's just slandering you and telling you that you're a terrible person, you should quit
Right.
wrestling, why are you still wrestling, you ended
Right.
Hangman Adam Page's career, you know what I mean? That's not good for their mental health. It actually made a lot of people quit and not want to come back. It made people depressed. And we could reference Sasha, the Sasha versus Paige issue.
Page incident. Yeah.
All she did was jump up and kick her legs out. I'm pretty sure you have done it before, where you just take two surfaces and you just kick your legs up. You don't think that that's going to be something that's really strong and impactful and it's going to paralyze someone, but it happened. It was an accident. And that's all
Right.
this was, an accident. And I feel like the same way they were coming at Mox kind of reminded me of Sasha's issue. And Sasha
Mm.
got depressed off of that.
Mm.
She almost wanted to quit because
Right.
everyone blamed her for Paige's career ending, when in all actuality, anything could happen at any given time. Vince blew out his quads walking inside of the ring. Both of them.
Remember that?
Like, he blew out his quads just walking. Like, anything could happen in this sport. That's why y'all sign paperwork. They know what they signed up for. I'm not
Right.
saying injure people and be reckless, but I'm saying y'all made mistakes too. They're humans. They're gonna make mistakes too.
Mhm.
Let's just focus on the fact that they're good, that they're
Right.
okay, that everyone's safe, everyone's fine. A concussion is not good, obviously, but a lot of us thought a lot worse was happening. So
Right.
I'm praying for
Same.
this man's health, but y'all need to just like chill. Just fucking chill. Sorry I went on a long behind rant, Jordan. I know you probably have a lot more to add to this, so I'm gonna let you
Nah, nah,
go.
nah. You're totally fine. I was gonna say, when JR says like this ain't ballet, what did y'all think he was saying? Because
Hmm.
like that's a fact. Like this is a
Yeah,
very, very physical
yeah.
sport. It's a very, very physical sport, and it's a very, very meticulous sport, meaning that the smallest thing can alter someone's not just match but livelihood. And so I think that when we look at these incidents, particular, I'll break it down incident by incident. But when we look at some of these incidents, we got to just take into account one, people's mental health and kind of their state of mind. Two, that everybody's doing the best that they can. And three, if you were in a position that they were in, you probably would have done worse than them because they're trained professionals and you're not. So let's go with incident with incident. First off, the Santana and Eddie Kingston backstage confrontation. I don't know what it was about. We've been hearing stuff about Santana and Ortiz breaking up and him kind of moving in a different way. I don't know what that's about. I know that Eddie has had backstage confrontations before, but generally he's a very, very nice guy. But I don't think that this is a point to say that AEW is an unsafe work environment. I think that any two people at a place that don't agree get into some form of confrontation, not just in wrestling, but in life. I've been at jobs and I've not liked people or I've disagreed with people or somebody said something and I got to be like, so like I don't think that that's unnatural or pointing to like them being unsafe or anything. So that's number one. Number two, with the Athena situation, if it's different from what it was on camera than it was in person, then we just got to take their word for it. Like honestly, Athena and this woman worked the match. Those two know each other apparently. And maybe it was one of those things where they were doing something to give the perception or the illusion that it was a shoot fight. Once again, that's something that we don't know as the audience that the wrestlers know and maybe doing to add on to the heightened drama or the replay value of the match because you want people to watch your stuff over and over and over and over again. But what I will say is that apparently they said that AEW management had to talk to the two women afterwards and probably had to be on some like, hey, you got to tone it down because like people thought it was a shoot and it is a very, very sensitive time in AEW. So those are just a couple of things to consider. Now, when it comes to Hangman and Moxley, I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. There's an old saying that said it takes two to tango, and from what I saw, it looked like Hangman sold the lariat and he fell, in a very, very weird way, and it was what it was, and we're hoping for the best for him, and I'm glad that he's okay. Um, as it pertains to Moxley, I've never heard a comment about him being unsafe ever in wrestling prior to this incident. And so I've never heard anybody saying that he's unsafe. I've never heard anybody saying that he is a bad worker. So I don't think that the slander is necessary. Like these two guys were having a hard-hitting match and have had hard-hitting encounters before. For God's sake, one of them pushed another one off of a ladder. So this is one of those things that they were doing to because it was on brand with the match. But I don't think that it's necessary to slander or to come at John Moxley in this manner. Clearly he was remorseful. I guess, I don't know if he knew that I don't know if he thought he had a part in it or not, but clearly he was remorseful. The man was on one knee praying. I've never heard John Moxley and prayer in the same sentence ever in my life. So for him to be praying like means something. It was serious. It was something that he was concerned about. But all in all, I do just kind of want to point out that I don't think that any of these incidents really like say that AEW is unsafe, right? I don't think that that's the case at all. I do think that they do some risky things, and that's what separates them from WWE. But I don't think that it's an unsafe work environment. But I could be wrong. I was gonna say, did you have anything else that you wanted to kind of point to pertaining to this incident or these incidents, I should say, at large?
Well, yeah, no, the only extra thing I just wanted to add on about Mox is just on top of him being nervous and praying and thinking about Hangman, he had to literally pull himself together to cut a promo and try to end the show on a high with
Right,
MJF, which kudos to him because I couldn't. It could not have been me. I would have been panicking and like just worried because the man wasn't moving. You know what I
right.
mean? So it's just like again, just referencing back to what I just said before. Y'all need to take it easy on some of these people, especially the workers that just don't have a bad track record. Now, in terms of
Hmm.
like your original question on is it like an unsafe work environment, I don't think that actually in ring is actually unsafe. I just think again they just do a lot of stupid gimmicky stunts that they could just lessen, honestly, but they got a
Hmm.
little bit better with the spot fest. The first
Yeah.
year that they were going, it was spot fest after spot fest after spot fest, especially with the tag teams. They were doing too much. But in terms of backstage, that's where I feel like they still need some work, and I feel like Tony Khan is doing a decent job, kinda. I mean, he has to get rid of Sammy for me to be fully convinced. But um, didn't we recently have someone released?
Ace Steel, CM
Yeah,
Punk's best
and he
friend.
was,
Yeah.
and was he part of the?
He was part of the incident.
Yeah, was he part of
Apparently,
the scrum? Yeah,
allegedly he was a part of the incident. So.
yeah. So I feel like he's working on things.
Hmm.
Now as far as Eddie Kingston goes, I feel like some people would be quick to be like, "Oh, well, he's a problem too." The same way people are going to say that Sammy's always, a common denominator. But I mean, I could understand the frustration here with him only because they were in a group, you know?
Hmm.
And obviously there's differences going on with Santana and Ortiz at the moment. One wants to be in a tag team, one wants to be a single star. One person's probably like, yo, I got a family, I'm getting a good paycheck, you know what I mean? I may not be booked the way I want, but I got a job and my family's good, like let's just be patient and see where it goes. And then you got the other person over here who's very much frustrated. They don't want to be in a tag team, they want to grow. Um, which doesn't shock me from Santana, only because, like, I believe he had said in an interview his favorite wrestler is Bret Hart, which told me everything I need to know. Like, you want to be that guy. You want to be that guy. You look up to a legend. You want to be that guy. I get it.
Hmm.
I get it. And Eddie, he's very emotional. That's what I got out of Eddie. Eddie's a very emotional man who
Right.
I just feel like needs a hug. I feel like he expresses all his emotions and anger and being grumpy. But I feel like
Right.
honestly, if you gave the man a hug, he would honestly come down a little bit.
Just a
I'm
little,
pretty
just a
sure that
tad.
this came more from a place. Yeah, yeah. I just feel like this came from a place of just like, like we started off like this and look what you guys are doing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's gonna be nothing left of what we started with LAX. So
Mm.
I understood it, but I don't think that as of right now, I would say that their environment is as hostile as it was. I feel like it's gonna take some time to clean it up and it's slowly going the right direction. So that's just my full on take.
I hear you on that, and I agree. I have nothing to say after that, so we're just gonna move on. Speaking of, hold on, wait, I gotta make sure that I'm doing this right. There we go. So speaking of All Elite Wrestling, Tony Khan, the president of All Elite Wrestling, may have some good news coming soon regarding a Ring of Honor weekly television program. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, Tony teased that he has some exciting news regarding a weekly program and stated that he has aspirations of having another pay-per-view by the end of 2022 with a weekly television show starting in 2023. So, how do you feel about Ring of Honor returning to weekly television, and what is their ceiling?
Uh, I mean, that's good for them. I'm not a person that grew up watching Ring of Honor, but I heard very good things about it. So I mean,
Hmm.
that's pretty cool that it's going to be back on weekly television. Um, and I mean, seeing what they already did with people like Chris Jericho holding the belt, I'm like, all right, now you kind of got my attention.
Hmm.
Um, can't quite answer. I personally don't feel like I'm qualified to answer what is their ceiling, just because again, I didn't grow up watching it. I just reference obviously like the main matches. So I'm actually gonna let Jordan answer this question for me.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I was able to catch Ring of Honor kind of a little bit towards the end, but I didn't grow up watching Ring of Honor. I just knew enough about it to understand when guys were leaving Ring of Honor to go to WWE or whatever the case may be. Ring of Honor was previously owned and operated by Sinclair Television. You're good. They were owned and operated by Sinclair Television, and while they had stability in the sense that they were owned by a TV network, I never really saw Ring of Honor as an accessible television program. And so, because it wasn't accessible, it never got the ratings and the money that it deserved. However, I think that the last time that they had a major sense of exposure was when you had the Elite doing their thing with New Japan and Ring of Honor. And so now that, Tony Khan owns Ring of Honor and he has a deal with Warner, he's in a position to kind of make that happen. As far as Ring of Honor being like a weekly television program, it's very, very difficult to book it on Warner Networks. And I think that they should look for a deal elsewhere because they are already, I wouldn't say have difficulty, but AEW is one of Turner's many different sports properties. Like they're already kind of adjusting to the NBA coming back. They also have deals with the NHL. They have a deal with the MLB when it comes to playoffs. So AEW already has to like stick and move around those schedules. And that's the reason why we're going to see Tuesday night dynamites or Thursday night dynamites or a special edition of Rampage or whatever the case may be. So to add Ring of Honor to that mix may not be the best idea. But considering the talent pool that Ring of Honor has, one with Chris Jericho being the Ring of Honor champion, as well as the guys that Tony Khan has in the contract with AEW / Ring of Honor, I think that the sky is the limit. I think that they can get a lot more visibility depending on where they are, and also depending on like what type of time slot that they occupy. If I definitely see them coming on like a Tuesday night, maybe even like a Thursday night. Um, I think that they should come on around like 7 or 8 p.m. Or even they could, there have been ideas thrown around about like them replacing Rampage, but it's like if people don't care about Rampage, then they're not going to care about Ring of Honor. So I don't think that it's a good idea to kind of replace one for the other because you may even slip even further in the rating. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think that the ceiling is pretty high. It just kind of depends on what type of deal they get and like where their like prime time slot is. I think that that's going to tell us a lot that we need to know about the next kind of evolution of Ring of Honor. But moving on from, because we just did a whole show on Ring of Honor and AEW. So moving on from there to the other wrestling company,
Yeah.
WWE. Let me make sure I get this right. Yes. So moving on from Ring of Honor and AEW to WWE, moving from one executive branch of a professional wrestling organization to another executive branch of a professional wrestling organization, The Rock was recently quoted in saying that there have been talks with Nick Khan about him possibly being an executive in WWE. First of all, I want to know your reaction to this. And second, I want to know that if you were Nick Khan and you had to give The Rock a role, what would it be?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to The Rock is his character and his charisma. He's very entertaining naturally, not even just like on screen with WWE, but even if you watch this man in his interviews, like he just oozes this something to him. Like he is electrifying both on screen and off screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love if he worked with some talent and helped them find their selves and find their character or maybe get more comfortable to amplify themselves. Like I would love if he directly worked with talent. I'm not sure if I see him um creating storylines. I'll be honest. I know that he's like
Yeah.
been in the movie industry for some time now, but I feel like he would actually just work better if he helped out talents directly, help molding them.
Mm,
Because again, when I think of The Rock, yes, he has like his iconic moveset and stuff like that, but I feel like he can help people more with their presence. 'Cause I do
mm,
feel like that's what the newer crop of talent are missing. They are missing some form of like a real presence. Like the storylines do need a facelift, but I
mm-hmm.
don't see The Rock fixing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
I
fact.
see him helping. Yeah, like I can't physically see it, but I feel like he'd be really important with taking a few people underneath his wing at a time and just
Mm-hmm.
helping to just mold them, teach them like how to look into the camera, how to deliver certain lines, what's a good character direction to go into and how to get that crowd or that it factor,
Mm,
so that it could resonate. That I feel like he has a lot to offer there because he has a
mm-hmm.
lot of personal or people skills, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't see him in the back pressing buttons. I can't see it. What do you
Mhm.
think?
I think so. I agree with all that, right? I think that he can help people with establishing their presence. I think that he can help people with, their character development and stuff like that. I don't think that he's a storyline guy. I think that Triple H is fine exactly where he is. I think that the team that he's put in place is doing a good job so far. But I think that where The Rock can thrive is being a liaison between the greater entertainment world and WWE. I feel like WWE has never had an official ambassador. And I think that him being the official ambassador for WWE would 100% make sense. Like The Rock is the highest paid actor in the world. And I'm pretty sure with between that and the XFL and his other commitments, he's not going to be backstage on Raw. He's not going to be backstage on SmackDown, on NXT. He may pop up a couple times, but that's a very busy man who has a very very dense business portfolio. But this man is
Mhm.
he has his own football league, and he's the highest paid actor in Hollywood, meaning that he can be the face of WWE in certain places where a Roman Reigns or a John Cena may not be, because he's immersed in a way where both of those guys aren't yet. So I kind of see him being like a liaison between the entertainment world and WWE, just officially, and maybe just give him like some other form of title. But I think that The Rock is more than qualified in being a WWE executive, and I think that it's very very interesting that we're seeing Hunter and Sean and Rock being called executives of WWE 20 years after the Attitude Era. Like, I think that
Yeah.
that's just super crazy to me. But it's kind of in the way of where sports and entertainment is going. Like a lot of the organizations that are popping up and doing well have guys in these positions of power who used to be, one of the guys. You know what I mean? Like you have an NBA Players Association filled with a bunch of guys who play or who have played. You know what I mean? You have, record labels where where there are artists that are sitting on the executive branches of those. And I feel like a lot of organizations are moving towards that route of we need people who did this to be involved in making the decisions. And I think that The Rock could definitely be one of those people, and I think that he should be an ambassador for WWE. I think that that's kind of the best way to go about it. I was going to say, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Nah?
Honestly, I don't think I have anything else to add because you kind of said it perfectly. Like, I didn't know where you would put him, but the way that you worded it, yeah, they could definitely use an ambassador. And I never thought about them not having one because I got so used to like their form of having like ambassadors is them getting external people
Yeah.
and trying to pull from a different audience. It's like you said, it's kind of they don't really have that from the inside out, at least not at the moment. I don't think they built anyone up to like. Oh, I guess you could think of people like Roman Reigns and when Sasha was there and kind of what they're doing with Bianca, but The Rock is like a whole different level. So I feel like it is beneficial. My only question is how much money do they give this man to convince him because he don't want to come back to no shows. He don't want to come back to no pay-per-views. He don't want to feud with nobody.
Here's what I
I would love to know the
suggest.
dollar amount.
Here's what I suggest, because if I'm not mistaken, there are two people who take a cut of everything. There are two people who WWE takes a cut of everything that they do. One of them is The Rock, the other one is John Cena. So like when we look at like his movies, when we look at The Rock's movies, WWE's taking a cut of that. When we look at The Rock and Under Armour, WWE's taking a cut of that. So I don't even think that they're going to give him money. I think that Nick Khan is just going to be like, if you come back and you take this executive role, you could have all of what you were going to make. Because you think that they may be collecting like a 15-20%. That's a lot of money. Like, so I think that they would be down to just like give him that 15-20% back or reduce that percentage. Because technically, The Rock is WWE's intellectual property. John Cena is WWE's intellectual property. So by nature, they're going to take a cut. So if they just allow
Crazy.
Rock to kind of like take all of his cut, I think that The Rock doesn't even get a salary. But I may be wrong, but you know, that's just how I feel.
God, that's insane. I
It's
never thought
crazy, right?
about that. That whole
Yeah.
15-20%. Does that apply to
Hmm.
people like Sasha and Naomi, what they're doing right now? So
Well,
do they get to cut with
technically,
everything that they're doing?
well, that's the reason why Sasha building her brand the way that she is right now is so genius because she's not doing it as Sasha Banks. She's doing it as Mercedes Varnado, which is her real name, right? So anytime that like Sasha Banks, because one of the biggest hot topics when Vince was in charge was like, well, how come WWE people can't use their WWE name? It's because the way that like the logic is the way that like certain TV shows have certain characters is the way that WWE gives wrestlers their wrestler names. So like a Sasha Banks is like a TV character name. So it's like because it's a TV character name, like anything related to that name is related to WWE, which means that WWE has to take a cut of it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the reason why Mercedes
Oh, like
doing
when
what she's
China tried taking her name back? Kind of like that?
exactly. Exactly.
Oh
So it's
shit,
like
wow.
that's like one of the biggest like the reason why what Mercedes is doing is like she's marketing herself primarily as Mercedes. Like she's saying like, yes, I was
You can't take
Sasha
my
Banks
government away from
on
me, bitch.
right. I was Sasha Banks in WWE. I was such and such on The Mandalorian. But overall, I am Mercedes. And she's marketing herself as Mercedes so that the value is in Mercedes, not in Sasha Banks, not in who she was on The Mandalorian.
Interesting.
So now she can pivot into
Definitely.
multiple things. And whatever she does as Mercedes, she keeps all of. That's between her agent, her manager, and herself. But if it's a Sasha Banks thing, now WWE has to get involved because that's WWE's intellectual property. The Sasha Banks name is WWE's trademark, which means that it's WWE's intellectual property. So, little nuggets of truth there,
Fascinating.
little
I love
nuggets
that.
of business there. Um, but moving on. So, big changes are actually ahead for WWE with their premium live events. It has been reported that WWE has already canceled its day one premium live event, which was scheduled for January 1st, and there are currently no pay-per-views scheduled between Survivor Series, which is on November 26th, and the Royal Rumble, which is on January 28th. So no December pay-per-views. There have been reports of WWE bringing back some old gimmick related um pay-per-views, and that begged the question: if you had to bring back a old WWE pay-per-view, what would it be?
I always really enjoyed Armageddon and
Mm,
Unforgiven. Those are
mm,
like two pay-per-views that I really really enjoyed growing up as a kid. There were so many though. Like I know that NXT tried bringing back a lot, so it kind of took away from my list. But if I had to go off the dome piece, yeah, definitely Armageddon and Unforgiven are two pay-per-views I went back. How about
mm.
you?
I would have to say I love Armageddon and Unforgiven. Another one is No Way Out. I feel like they just once they pushed the Elimination Chamber back to January or February, they just named the event Elimination Chamber. But like I loved No Way Out, being kind of like the follow-up pay-per-view to Royal Rumble. But if I had to pick one, it would be it has two names technically. Taboo Tuesday / Cyber Sunday. I feel like that is the one pay-per-view that makes sense to bring back in 2022 because you would allow the audience to participate. There are opportunities to integrate social media, web 2, web 3 into the pay-per-view. And I think that it'll just be really really fun to, to um do a pay-per-view in which people get to participate. I feel like that would drive engagement up, and now that WWE's very social media savvy and very social media centric, I think that that can like help with their engagement as well. So WWE Cyber Sunday Taboo Tuesday is the event that I would pick for sure. Um I was going to say did you want to add anything to that or like
I just remember I can't for some like I remember Cyber Sunday and I remember like the layout of it and I remember like back then was that when they used to do polls a lot for some weird reason like they went through a weird era where they kept doing polls for like It could have been for like the Diva Search. It could have been for matches or whatnot. But they went through a weird Paul's era that kind of
They,
went with the pay per view. Which one was
I,
that?
jeez, I don't remember.
They used to like
I
give you like a text number and tell everyone text this number, and
Texas number.
then
Yeah, 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 yeah.
they used to.
I remember that. I remember that. I think that it was like, I think, yeah, they did do that during the Diva Surge, and I think they did do that for Taboo Tuesday or Cyber Sunday. I think they, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that brought me
Was that
back.
for that pay per view, or was that was just? I remember it was more than just the Divas Series. They had that for like other things where they had fans like vote. Like I just remember seeing that. Me and Matt as a kid, I couldn't text because I had no phone. But I wanted to know
They
if they
did that
had
for
that for that. But no, honestly, that's pretty cool. Hmm?
they did that for the Diva Search. I think everything that they did for Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday was directly through WWE.com, because the whole thing was like, you got to vote on the website. You got to
Yeah, there
go
we go. There we
on.
go. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Voting. That
yeah.
I
It
could do
was
as a kid.
right.
My votes didn't go through sometimes, but I remember that shit. I
I
definitely
could
remember
vote.
that shit.
Nah, it was they definitely voted through they definitely voted through the website directly. But yeah, I think that the calls or the texts were definitely Diva Search. Um, but
They should add stuff back like that for if they're gonna do that pay per view. Like they should do
oh
like
yeah,
things that fans can actually engage with. They're probably gonna use Twitter for it because Twitter is like how they engage with fans. But I
yeah.
think it'd be pretty dope if they did they brought like the cyber shit back.
But that would be
But go
more
on,
than
sorry.
doable and manageable. That would be more than doable
Mhm.
and manageable. But speaking of premium live events, WWE NXT is looking to get back on the road. In an interview with TV Insider, Shawn Michaels said that he was interested in booking NXT specials in traditional arenas, similar to how they did with NXT TakeOver. Should NXT return to these big arenas, though?
I don't think NXT is doing well enough to even consider that conversation. I'm
Mm.
sorry.
Oh.
Maybe when they get back on their feet and people care to watch the show again,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, you could try to do that, but I don't think you're going to make much money.
Mm.
Sorry. Just like the fact that they got their ass whooped on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was just like kind of like an emergency thing because like the NBA is going on at the
Right.
moment. And they still got their ass whooped brutally. And I was watching both shows side by side, and I'm like, yeah, like I know Hunter is kind of working on NXT, but it's not where it needs to be. So maybe when it gets to where it needs to be and it starts reeling in those numbers or getting the attention that it can be getting once it gets that facelift that it desperately needs. Yeah, but right now, hell no, because like I mean, I feel like you're gonna go into depth. You're gonna go into the
Right.
negative with that one. I don't hear anyone like being excited about NXT. Like I feel
Mm.
like I'm in the minority that actually likes NXT, but
Mm.
no, no, he's gonna play himself. What do you think?
I think if they do it, they need to do it during like how they used to during the weekends of the pay per views of the Big Four. So, because I feel like they've marketed the Big Four pay per views as far as Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series as like them being like destination events and big stadiums. So, like, you're more than likely going to get a larger audience. So, if you were to do an arena, you could. But outside of that, though, I don't like. I think that there's definitely the possibility of them like going back into arenas. But like you said, I think that they need to develop their roster and their storylines a little bit more. I think that NXT specials work for the Performance Center now. But I do believe that if they want to expand to bigger arenas, they have to do a couple things. And I think that one of the things is what we're going to be talking about next, which I'm going to get into. But I just think that in order for them to get into big arenas like they used to, they have to get bigger stars. But WWE is more than capable of getting bigger stars, um, and integrating them into NXT. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my personal opinion on it. I want to know how everybody else feels. Should NXT return to big arenas? Let us know. But speaking of NXT, and this is another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, the go home episode of this week's edition of NXT for Halloween Havoc featured multiple main roster superstars such as Rhea Ripley, Kevin Owens, and the OC. Well, the OC wasn't like NXT bred, but you know what I mean. They integrated a bunch of main roster stars um back into the NXT product. Do you think that we're going to see more of this integration between the mainstream main roster superstars and the NXT product?
Yeah, and I kind of hope so because honestly, it was super exciting, seeing people like again, Rhea Ripley put on a damn good match.
Mhm.
Whatchamacallit, seeing Sonya Deville pop up and have like a role with Mandy Rose, it's a cute little callback that they did. Seeing
Uh-huh.
Shinsuke like made me super excited. Like, first of all, they were singing his song the entire match, which I thought was so freaking adorable. Like, I was so happy for this man. He actually kind of looked happy to be there,
Right.
and I think that's good. I think that's good to have little callback references of people that help build this empire that is constantly and ever changing until they get their shit together and get things right. But um I'm not against it. I think
Mm.
it's gonna help get other talent over because there are some people that I didn't particularly care to watch all that much. Like they're not bad wrestlers, but they just needed like a little something, maybe a little just a little like pat on the back or just,
Mhm.
you know, um like it's a little bit of a rub. And I felt like that was a good addition. It doesn't need to be like several people every single week, but if they do want to like reference some people, I think that's a good idea, because if you're a really big fan of someone like Rhea Ripley or Shinsuke or whatever, it might bring eyes over to the product, which
Mhm.
I see what they're trying to do here. I think they attempted this before when they bought people like Charlotte down, but she
Mhm.
actually stayed down. Becky Lynch, I think, came in before, and she popped up. We saw Finn Balor stay down there, but like, I think that's good to make references because I don't think Triple H wants to treat it like a developmental. He change his mind on that? I know he flip flopped a few times with that, but I don't think he wants to treat it like it's developmental. I feel like
Mhm.
he wants to treat it like it is a tertiary brand that is just as important as the other two brands. And that's a good
Mhm.
way to make it seem that way by actually bringing back talents that help build the black and gold brand to what it was. Now it's
Mhm.
white and gold, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's good, it's great, it's smart. I loved it. Actually, the show was more entertaining because of it. Like the best parts of the show came out of when main roster stars came down.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I I agree with you. I think that that if they want to treat this like an important show, that there has to be more main roster superstars integrated into the NXT product in ways that are appropriate. Like I love the way that KO had the Kevin Owens show to kind of build towards this triple threat match we're going to see at Halloween Havoc that we're going to talk about later in the show. I loved how Rhea
Oh
Ripley was
yes.
kind of there to be part of the pick your poison kind of stipulation between Roxanne and Cora. I think that's really, really
Oh,
cute and
Shotzi was
really,
there
really,
too.
yeah.
Forgot that.
Um,
Yeah.
I thought that that was really cute and really, really fun. And I think that if WWE wants to continue to create a show that feels more important than developmental, then they have to integrate people into the show that are just important people. And they can do that. And I love the way, this is a sidebar, I loved the way that these superstars being integrated made sense, right? Like Rhea Ripley's a former NXT women's champion, probably one of the greatest women's champions to ever come from NXT. Kevin Owens, former NXT champion, right? We talked about the OC being down there. And the last time the OC was down there was a whole OC undisputed era type of confrontation. It was Survivor Series, like they were going, it was like brand supremacy. So it made sense. Like all these integrations made sense. And so I think that while it's important to have main roster superstars to make the show feel important, I think it's even more important to use them appropriately. And I think that we're going to actually get more of that. And I think that it's great and I think that it's important. But speaking of NXT, the general manager of NXT, William Regal, was in a very good segment this past week on AEW Dynamite with MJF. And this wasn't originally supposed to be a part of the show, but we just have to talk about it. This segment, how go first. How do you
I
feel
actually
about
want you
it?
to go first with this one. I actually want to hear your take first. I'm gonna build off of that.
All right, so boom. When MJF cut that promo in LA and he said that he had to step up to the plate and he hits grand slams time after time after time. That man was not lying. Because we thought that the MJF versus Punk confrontation was a once in a lifetime thing. We thought that that vocal back and forth, that passion, that energy in that moment could never be duplicated. And then this man turned around a year later and created a moment that was just as important as that one. Um, I think that this is just amazing character development. It feels like they were building towards an MJF Punk, but now they found something even more interesting that is a part of MJF's past that's going to fuel him towards getting this world title that's just as important, that's just as captivating and just as interesting as an audience member. And what I will say is this, and this is going to be a very, very bold take from me. MJF, Roman Reigns, and Bray Wyatt are currently the best storytellers in professional wrestling, bar none.
Oh,
These three
period.
guys,
Period.
these
Y'all
three
can't argue with
guys
that one.
that yeah, y'all really can't. Like in my opinion, I think that MJF, while is number one, he's the most important pillar in AEW. He just hasn't been booked that way. Number two, I do believe that his ability to make you feel is what made this segment stand out. And I think that he found a way as a pompous, cocky character to make himself relatable because he faced rejection and everybody has faced rejection. But I think that what he has with William Regal is another kind of sub story under the story he has with John Moxley that's going to make this match and this feud feel so important. And I love the fact that even though it was, impromptu and they kind of had to squeak this promo out at the end because of everything that happened with Hangman Adam Page, this was a great way, to build towards this world title match as far as announcing it there. Because I think that the match is going to be in November, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for at Full Gear.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that MJF has solidified himself. I'm not going to say what you said because I want that take to be reserved for you, but he has solidified himself as easily the best storyteller in AEW and easily one of the best storytellers in the industry, bar none. And that promo segment was absolutely unbelievable. And he proved that MJF doesn't need AEW. AEW needs MJF. And that's how I'm going to finish my little spiel. But I definitely want to hear your take on it.
No, everything you said was spot on and wonderfully said, honestly. I was so taken back by this segment for just so many reasons. Just when we first were introduced with MJF, he was a cocky, condescending, in your face heel. And I never thought to myself like that this man could ever possibly be a baby face, a believable baby face, with at least
Mm-hmm.
not without being somehow condescending. But what I loved about this was they managed to take one of the greatest heels of all time, that is William Regal.
Mm-hmm.
And it took someone like him and an actual personal antidote that I love how they tied it in together so tight neatly is and they managed to um use a legend like Regal to physically break down MJF before the audience's eyes. Like that line where he said that he wanted to I don't want to get flagged on YouTube. K-word himself.
Mm-hmm.
Um because of that rejection, that had my jaw dropping on the floor before the promo even ended. 'Cause I was like, "Holy crap, there's a way to actually add character development to this man." Like, he already has, like, a really over gimmick, and some people feel like that, that's all that he does. He could just say mean things, and that it's funny, but it's gonna wear out. No, this was important, and this was so pivotal because I never thought, again, that they could make this man into a believable babyface. So for him to get
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, and it took someone like William Regal just basically, like, treating him like the gum at the bottom of his shoe, just telling him about himself, things that he did not wanna hear. Just saying like, "Hey, like, you gotta prove yourself. Like, you're
Right.
talking all this smack that you think that you're yeah, that you're the guy. You never earned jack diddly shit." You have to prove yourself to me. That's why I didn't take your ass in back then, and that's why you don't got a strap on you now. Cause what have you done? besides
Right.
run behind everyone else and run your fucking mouth at the same time. Like,
He really did
William
that.
broke
Yeah.
this man down. That whole thing with the brass knuckles where he's just like, I don't need these things. Like, you hit people with your freaking ring. I don't need this shit. I hit people with this because I like to, bitch. And he turned around. A few minutes after saying this, turned around. It's just like, all right, he's going to do one of the little gimmicks. Hit me, pussy. Hit me, hit me, hit me.
Right.
Oh, you're not? Punk ass bitch. That's what I thought. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that shit was amazing because you just watched just like him come in with this inflated ego, like he's gonna break down someone else because that's what MJF is known for. No matter who you are, what's your title, if you're a legend, if you have a belt on you or not, MJF is used to breaking you down. And
That's a
William
fact.
Regal with ease split this man into two. Like the craziest part was you're not used to seeing MJF be left speechless.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't pointing that part out. That was the first time that this man was ever left speechless.
Oh, second time.
William got
Second
the
time.
last word.
That
Second
was the
time.
second time. Punk was the first time.
Punk was the first one. My apologies. Thank you for that correction, Jordan. Second time. Okay? And it was done even better than Punk. Because
Right.
again, like, whatchamacallit, William Regal brought out this vulnerability. I was like, wow, this is fucking great. This can't get even better. And then I'm so sorry what had happened with Hangman, but it's kind of as if the universe kind of lined up things to happen the way it did on purpose because the way that they went about it with
Mm.
freaking MJF coming down with the ref and acting like he's going to take full advantage of this situation, this really fucked up situation, and beat Mox and just have him, be a condescending chicken shit heel. But he actually pledged that he's going to do something he never done before and actually try and earn
Mm.
it. Try and earn it. Two things that MJF is not known for doing.
Right.
Like now he has to actually prove something. He has to prove himself. That to me was just mind boggling. Like
Mm.
literally, I was shaking and screaming while I was watching this and me in a full on mark. Cause I was just like, wow, they really managed to turn this man into a baby face. So that moment when he does get the gold, we already want to see him with some gold. We've been wanting to see him with some gold since he feuded with Jericho. We were all on his side. But now when he gets it, and building off of what Jordan just said with how there's like a little B plot into the A plot, it's going to be so much more rich and juicier. Like, I feel
Mm.
like when he wins his belt, there's going to be like a standing ovation because not only is he going to be probably one of the biggest baby faces in the company once he does get that belt, because he literally had to face his own demons.
Right.
Again, he did say that he wanted to harm himself off of the rejection. When he gets it, like it's going to be such an overwhelming standing ovation. And I just think this is just like one of the best storylines in wrestling going on thus far. It has my full attention. Um, and another thing I just want to add on is just that I feel like they should have been done stuff like this with MJF. But I'm not mad about this long-term storytelling. It's just that you already had what you wanted in Punk, the stuff that we love about Punk. You already had all that with MJF. He's young, he's fit, he gets it. He's used to being in front of the camera. He understands presence. He's a mixture of the old and the new. He's a very great and safe worker. Um, and he's very unique. He has this authenticity that no one else is going to be able to replicate. He's not.
Right.
Like when I look at MJF, I don't really think about really anyone else. Yeah, I just said like you kind of get what you want out of Punk with MJF, but MJF is like his own person. He's his own entity.
Mm-hmm.
And he does what he does so well. And I felt like Tony, if he didn't understand before the incident happened and MJF wanting to leave, you know, like he better recognize now like the money that he has in MJF because this is the homegrown talent you should have been putting a
Pushing.
lot more effort into.
Right.
Like like I understand that he wants to appease his EVPs and his buddies here and his buddies over there. Your money needs to go into this man because he's already building a legendary career at 26 years old. Like he's not even touching 30 yet. And he's pulling off one of the greatest storylines to ever go down in history with his little feud with Regal and then how it's gonna intersect into like John Mox. Like, yo, I'm not gonna call you cokehead today. Tony Khan, can you please get your shit together and see what you have with MJF? All right, this man is money. This man is generational. He is the future. Okay, I just have to give that another like applause because that promo was insane. Like they smoked NXT with that. There was no way they were going to top that level of
Nothing.
storytelling.
Yeah.
It was it was just amazing, man. I'm so sorry. I'm being a mark right now.
You're good, but
It was
we all are.
so good.
We all are marks. I'm gonna end it on that note. But moving back into NXT because this Saturday is Halloween Havoc. Hold on, is it this Saturday? I'm gonna make
Hey,
sure that I'm not lying.
I
Halloween
believe it's coming up
Havoc,
October 19th.
October
No, no, no,
October.
not
Oh, it's in
19th.
2 days.
What's
No,
today?
October 22nd. So I was
Yeah,
right. So Halloween Havoc
yeah.
is this Saturday live on Peacock, aka Kevin Owens' favorite word, and we have a series of some pretty
That's me.
interesting matches. So we're gonna go through each match and we're gonna give our predictions. So we're gonna start off Julius Creed versus Damon Kemp in an ambulance match. For those of you who are unaware, Damon Kemp was a part of the Diamond Mine. He turned on the Diamond Mine, and it Diamond Mine, yeah. And essentially, he's putting Julius Creed in a position as to where if he loses, his brother has to lose NXT. He has to leave NXT. So I want to know, who do you have between Julius Creed and Damon Kemp?
Were they the two that ended off NXT? Because this was the one I don't think I was actually invested in. But if I had to go with a name, just go with the name. I'm just gonna say Julius Creed
Mm,
because he's a little more likable than Dame, in my personal opinion. I didn't
mhm.
care for this feud in the video package or anything they had leading up to this. I'm gonna be
Right.
painfully honest with that one. Do you have any interest in this match? Because I surely don't.
I am interested in the cultivation and development of Damon Kemp. Reason being is because I feel like they've cultivated successfully Wesley in his own way. They've cultivated in a phenomenal way Carmelo Hayes. Um, so I want to see how they package Damon Kemp. And, great athlete, great wrestler, but I'm very, very interested in seeing his character development. But as it pertains to this match, I'm going to go with Julius Creed. I don't see them breaking up the Creed brothers. They're a great tag team that has potential to be on the main roster and do very well. So I'm going to go with Julius Creed. Now, moving on to the next match. We're going to go with Roxanne Perez versus Cora Jade in a weapons wild match. Who do you got, Roxanne or Cora?
I feel like Roxanne could benefit from being broken down enough. So I feel like it'd be good for Cora if she won and she broke down Roxanne to a point where she doesn't have to be a heel, but maybe she kind of reinvents herself because she still has this cutesy little girl act that she has going on. Um and not that it's a bad gimmick. I actually like her and she's a really good wrestler for someone as young as she is. But I feel like it would make more sense, especially with this whole generation of Jade thing they have going on, if they do let her continue her heel shtick and running over Roxanne until she pushes her to a point where down the line, um Roxanne does come back, reinvent it a little bit, or maybe just slightly adjusted to where she gets serious and um maybe she does come back for Cora. But I just don't see the booking how they would go further if Roxanne did win. Like I don't see what they would do with that. There's more
Mhm.
longevity with Cora than there is having Roxanne win as a babyface right now. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that Roxanne needs a little bit more character development. I think she needs a little bit of edge to her because she is very, very innocent and adorable. What I will say though, Roxanne Perez and her technical prowess, and I said this on Twitter, Roxanne Perez and her technical prowess reminds me a lot of Deonna Purrazzo. Just being a sound technical wrestler. She reminds me of a lot like Deanna, but I still think that she needs a little bit more edge to her. I still believe that Cora Jade is going to be the one that dethrones Mandy. The irony in that is that Cora kind of has to become Mandy esque in order to beat Mandy. Um, but I think that Cora Jade is going to win. I think that Cora is going to win this match, and I think that she's going to go on to win the NXT Women's Championship, and then eventually Roxanne and Cora are going to mix it up again, but it's going to be a different Roxanne this time. Um, but speaking of the NXT Women's Championship, Mandy Rose versus Alba Fire for the NXT Women's title. Who do you got?
Mandy, I don't think they're gonna stop this reign anytime soon. As
Mm,
much as I love Alba, I don't think, I think that they think that all their money is with Mandy, and
yeah,
honestly, I came back around to liking Mandy, and I only see more and more layers being added onto her. Um, so I feel like she's gonna win, and she's gonna branch off because I feel like right now with the group that she's in with Toxic Attraction, it does feel like Destiny's Child. Feels like she's the Beyonce of the
yo,
group, and then I'm not trying to be rude because I actually love Gigi. JC is not bad to me, but it's just like she is the Michelle. I'm not trying to be rude, but she is
agree.
the Michelle. But Mandy, this is all like set up, so when she does go back to the main roster, like she is a draw. She is money. So I don't see her losing to her. I agree with your take from before that this is gonna wrap around back to Cora because she's the only person I feel like they built up seriously and they're investing a lot of time, money, and effort into. So this is
Yeah,
just gonna be a long behind reign of Mandy Rose, and I'm not really mad at it because she's really improved. Like I never would have thought in a million years that I could see Mandy as like a convincing solo act, but
hmm
it's definitely going to get there. It has been getting there. It only makes sense that she wins. So that's just my take. What do you think?
I think that Mandy's gonna win as well. Alba Fire, I think is great. I love that she is the same woman that she was when she was in NXT UK. She just kind of refined it and channeled it a little bit more. Um, but yeah, like I think that Mandy's gonna win. Like I think that once again, they're gonna try to make this, and they are making this probably one of the most memorable NXT Women's Championship reigns ever. Um, I think that it's when I think of NXT Women's Champions, I think of Mandy, I think of Rhea, I think of Asuka, and I think of there's one
Shayna.
Shayna. Those are the four that
That's
like come to my mind. Huh?
no, I was just saying Shayna. Like, don't you
Oh
forget
yeah, yeah.
Shayna. It took too long for you to say Shayna.
No, yeah, I said yeah. But yeah, I think those are the four best. But I think that they're gonna make this continue to make this a memorable feud, and I think that Mandy. I think what's impressive about Mandy Rose's reign is that she's showing that she can carry a brand. She's showing that she could be the face of a brand, which I think was the issue in when she was on the main roster. It was like we have this talented woman, beautiful woman, but we don't know if she can carry a brand the way that a Charlotte or a Sasha or a Becky traditionally has. And I think that she's proven that she could do that and more. And I'm very, very eager to see her kind of pop back out on the main roster. Moving on from that, though, Apollo Crews versus Grayson Waller. I don't know if this match has a stipulation, but I think Grayson Waller. That man is super, super duper
It's a spin the
charismatic for no.
wheel.
It's a spin the wheel. All right, cool, cool, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Grayson Waller. I think that he's money. Very charismatic. He's hilarious in my opinion. I think he's gonna win. I think he has more of the game from this than Apollo Crews. So I think he's gonna
I agree with your take 100%. I don't particularly care for Grayson Waller. He's a little bit annoying to me, but
win.
you can see where this is all going. I
hmm
don't see again where you would go if Apollo Crews won. It just feels like this is just another. This is like just something to get Grayson Waller through and get him a match just on pay per view and build towards his character. Like it's kind of like a no brainer that he's gonna get
Yeah.
this one.
Agreed on that. And now we're going to the North American Championship ladder match. Number one, I'm very, very excited that they're bringing this back. I was in person for the first ever NXT North American Championship ladder
Oh,
match in New Orleans. Me and Angie went. Oh my god, it was so great.
ooh,
It was Adam Cole, EC3, Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, and I forgot who else. But God, that was a great match. But I'm glad that they're bringing back
yeah.
the five way for the title. And we got Carmelo Hayes, Wes Lee,
Mhm.
Nash Carter, Von Wagner, and Oro Mensa. And it will be those five competing. So who do you think is going to win this?
The bias in me wants to say Carmelo Hayes or Wesley. I feel like they've been slowly building Wesley on the side. I mean, I can see Carmelo Hayes winning just because it's Carmelo Hayes.
Hmm.
But I do think it'd be really awesome if Wesley got this one, especially with all that he's been through and the way they've been presenting him on TV weekly. It seems like they want to do something with him and they just haven't yet pulled the trigger on it. And I feel like he has that it factor and I want to see more of him. I want to see him carry more gold and have a solo act. So I think that he would benefit the most out of this. If Carmelo Hayes won, I wouldn't be mad. The other names mentioned, I don't see anything interesting coming out of that reign if they
Hmm.
earned it now. But Wesley, I think it's been long overdue that he has a solo run.
I agree with you there. I think that
Mhm,
I think it's a toss up between Wesley and Nash Carter. Reason I say
mhm.
that is because Nash had a best out of three series of matches on NXT television. I forgot the name of the guy that he was facing, but he had to get a best of three just to secure the final spot in this. So I feel like it's built his character along the way. So I can see
Yeah.
him winning, but I definitely see Wesley winning, and I see him feuding with Tony D'Angelo after this match.
Oh,
And
please. I love
Tony
Tony. Oh,
and Tony is probably, and if that were to happen, Tony would win. But I definitely see Wesley winning. He's had an incredible story. I think he's been through a lot personally and professionally over the last year. And so I think that it will be a good win for him. It will be a good feel good moment for him. And now to the NXT championship, which I believe, sidebar, the NXT championship and the NXT women's championship should be referred to as the NXT World Women's Championship and the NXT World Championship. If you're integrating the UK, number one, the NXT title has been defended all over the world, as well as the NXT Women's Championship has been defended all over the world. And both titles now carry the legacy of the NXT UK Championship. So it's like, why not just call it a World Championship? But anyway, we have a triple threat between
no, I agree with that
Braun Breaker,
entirely.
huh?
Hmm? No, I agree
You
with
say
your
you
take
agree?
entirely. I
Oh,
think that it's disrespectful if they didn't do that. Well, they
right.
are being disrespectful, I should say, by not doing that. But go on. My apologies.
So it's a triple threat for the NXT World Championship between Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov versus JD McDonough. Who do you think is going to take this match?
Biased in me wants to go with Braun Breaker. To be
Mm,
honest,
yeah.
I don't see what they would have done with the other two, unless you have some, you have some take on this that might make me think otherwise. I don't see Braun losing the belt until they're about ready to call him up, and I don't see them calling him up. I don't see them calling Braun Breaker up anytime soon. Unless he's gonna be involved in like war games or something, but like
Mm.
I don't see him moving from where he is right now. What do you think?
I would have to agree with you. I think that Braun is going to retain his title. I do think that it's cool though that they are putting him against a lot of UK guys because it doesn't make it seem as if NXT UK was unimportant. So like the fact that he keeps having challengers that are from the NXT UK, I think is really really dope. So I expect this to be a
Mm,
banger of a match. Um, I feel like Trent Seven is next. I feel like Trent's gonna come over and try
really?
to have a match with Braun Breaker, but I think that Braun is gonna
Mm.
retain his NXT championship, and I think that concludes our Halloween Havoc predictions. If you guys have any remarks on Halloween Havoc, let us know. Tell us your predictions. Tell us if you think we're lying or if we're out of our minds or whatever the case may be. But that concludes also our show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode of Culture 316. Continue to like, comment, share, subscribe, and be sure to join our Discord. Hopefully, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later.